Andrew Berry didn't just move up, he took over. With Paul DePodesta, Kevin Stefanski fired. Berry's promotion to team president positions him just beneath Jimmy Haslam and at the very top of football operations. That means no more committee decisions. No more tug-of-war between analytics and instincts.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
For the first time, Cleveland's direction rests in one set of hands. And if Berry believes Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback of the future, the entire franchise will now be built around that belief. This isn't a reset. It's a redefinition. Berry has been at the heart of the Browns' recent drafts, but now he'll oversee everything from coaching hires to roster philosophies. With DePodesta out, Berry has the authority to move Cleveland away from data models and toward a player-focused, development-first structure. If that structure revolves around Sanders, it will reflect Berry's full commitment to building around a long-term quarterback, a gamble with franchise-shaping implications. Kevin Stefanski is out, Andrew Berry is all the way in, and Shedeur Sanders just got a whole lot more relevant to Cleveland's future. In a move that rocked the NFL and sent Browns fans into full whiplash, the franchise officially fired head coach Kevin Stefanski and promoted GM Andrew Berry to team president. And not just in name, this is a full-blown elevation. Berry now reports directly to owner Jimmy Haslam. He's not just overseeing roster moves. He's overseeing everything. And if the buzz is true, this shift is bigger than just an org chart tweak. It's laying the foundation for a total strategic overhaul that centers around one goal: fixing the Browns' quarterback curse. Possibly with Shedeur Sanders at the center of it. Now, when a team fires its coach, that's usually enough for headlines. But this wasn't an isolated move. Paul DePodesta, yes, that Paul DePodesta, the Browns' chief strategy officer and analytics brain trust, is also out. He's taking a job with the Colorado Rockies, leaving behind his NFL experiment that spanned major trades, draft strategies, and a famously numbers-heavy approach to team building. That matters. Because, with DePodesta gone, Berry now has a blank canvas. No more tug-of-war between data and instincts. No more navigating around competing football philosophies. This is Berry's show now. Completely. And here's where Shedeur Sanders enters the spotlight, not as a maybe, but as a real future option. Berry, now with full authority, has the green light to build the roster and coaching staff exactly the way he wants. And if that vision involves developing a young quarterback with star potential, Sanders fits the bill perfectly. The timeline lines up too cleanly to ignore. Sanders is projected to be NFL ready by 2026. That's just enough time for Berry to restructure the team, make key coaching hires, and put together a support system specifically designed to develop a quarterback from the ground up. And let's be clear, the Browns need that kind of direction. They've tried quick fixes. They've chased veterans. They even mortgaged the future for Deshaun Watson in a trade that continues to haunt the franchise. But quarterback stability? It's never arrived. And this move, the firing, the promotion, the exit of DePodesta, is all about trying to finally get it right. Ownership seems to agree. Promoting Berry to team president is not a temporary patch. It's a full endorsement of his long-term vision. Despite all the criticism about past drafts, questionable trades, and roster inconsistencies, Jimmy Haslam and the ownership group are doubling down on Berry. That tells us something important. They're ready to ride out a rebuild. A real one. One that prioritizes development over desperation. That shift alone is rare in Cleveland. For decades, the Browns have operated in crisis mode. Constant turnover, coaching carousels, roster churn. But this looks like an attempt to install stability at the top and trust the process, even if it means starting fresh at quarterback once again. And speaking of quarterbacks, if Berry really is preparing to draft or trade for Sanders, this next coaching hire becomes everything. Stefanski's departure clears the path for someone new. And not just anyone, someone with an offensive mind. Someone who can work with a young quarterback, design systems around his strengths, and, most importantly, develop him. That's what Shedeur Sanders would need. That's what the Browns have never successfully done. Coaching changes are coming. That much is clear. Whether it's the head coach or offensive coordinator, or both, the staff is going to look different, and it'll be built to align with this new vision. Barry will pick people who don't just fit the scheme, but fit his strategy. People who are capable of nurturing a franchise quarterback instead of just managing chaos. And timing is too. The 2026 season gives this new leadership group a 2-year window to get everything in place. That's enough time to identify their quarterback, bring in the right offensive minds, and build a roster around young, high-upside talent. A 2-year developmental runway might sound long, but in NFL terms, it's focused. It gives structure to what used to be a never-ending rebuild with no real direction. Shedeur Sanders isn't even in the league yet, and already the pieces around him are moving in a way that looks very intentional. If Barry has any interest in drafting Sanders, he now has the power and the timeline to do it properly. That includes revamping the coaching philosophy, retooling the offense, and ensuring Sanders isn't just thrown in to survive, but develop to thrive. And fans should be paying attention. Because for once, the Browns aren't reacting. They're resetting. This organizational pivot signals more than just dissatisfaction with past results. It's a hard stop, a total reevaluation of who gets to make decisions and how the franchise is built. Paul DePodesta's exit symbolizes a break from the analytics-first philosophy. Kevin Stefanski's firing confirms that a new football identity is on the way. And Barry's promotion? That's the Browns betting everything on one man's vision. And let's not pretend that vision doesn't come with controversy. Barry's record hasn't been perfect. He's made roster decisions that haven't worked out. He's been criticized for how the team handled the Watson situation. But despite all that, ownership isn't backing away. They're giving him more control. That's a bold move, and depending on how this rebuild unfolds, it'll either age really well or become the next chapter in Cleveland's history of front office chaos. But this time, there's a plan. And if Sanders really is the guy Cleveland wants to build around, it's happening at the perfect time. The team can finally create a structure that supports a young quarterback instead of breaking him. They can build offensive consistency. They can stop forcing square pegs into round holes. And they've got 2 years to do it. That's a huge window in NFL terms. It means Sanders wouldn't be coming into a disaster zone. He wouldn't have to be a savior. He'd be walking into a system built for him. And in Cleveland, that would be unprecedented. This isn't just about one quarterback or one coach. It's about Cleveland finally choosing a direction and sticking to it. A rebuild that isn't just reactive, but proactive. That isn't about short-term optics, but long-term results. That's what this upheaval signals. And that's what could finally set the Browns on a path they've been chasing for decades. Whether it works or not remains to be seen. But for now, the old structure is gone. The Stefanski era is over. DePodesta's analytics-first influence is gone. And Andrew Barry has full control. And if Shedeur Sanders is truly the future of this franchise, this is the moment everything starts lining up for that to actually succeed. Let us know what you think. Was firing Stefanski the right move? Can Barry lead this new era without repeating past mistakes? And is Cleveland really setting the stage for Shedeur Sanders to become the face of the franchise by 2026? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you've survived one too many Browns rebuilds. And make sure you subscribe to stay locked in on the NFL's wildest power plays and quarterback gambles. It's Cleveland. You know it won't be quiet for long. This is the part where Browns fans start holding their breath, not out of fear, but out of sheer exhaustion. They've seen this before. The firings, the reshuffling, the press conferences filled with words like alignment and culture and long-term vision. And 9 times out of 10, the so-called vision is already smoldering in a dumpster behind First Energy Stadium by the next offseason. But this time, it feels uncomfortably deliberate. Kevin Stefanski is gone. Not reassigned. Not parting ways. Fired. After 4 seasons of mixed results, 1 playoff win, and a whole lot of awkward quarterback rotations, the plug was pulled. Just like that. And the very next move? Promoting Andrew Barry to team president. Not just keeping him, elevating him, giving him full control of football operations with no one else in the way. And that, right there, is the pivot point. Because say what you will about Barry's previous tenure, his moves have been bold. Questionable at times, sure, but undeniably decisive. The 2020 draft class? Largely successful. The 2021 and 2022 off-seasons? Controversial. The Watson trade? Still a storm cloud over the city. But here's what's different. Ownership is no longer hedging their bets. They've chosen their guy, and they're building the entire organization around his philosophy. Which means every coach, scout, and system that doesn't align with Barry's approach is now officially on the chopping block. And with Paul DePodesta quietly exiting stage left, it's not just a personnel shift, it's a philosophical one. DePodesta was the architect of Cleveland's data-driven, baseball-influenced management model. He brought spreadsheets to a helmet fight. He wanted the numbers to decide everything. And in some areas, it worked, at least in theory. But in practice, the model lacked feel. It lacked football nuance. And it definitely lacked the kind of human-centered strategy that's needed to develop a quarterback over multiple seasons. Which brings us to Shedeur Sanders. There's no official announcement, no confirmed connection. But the signs are there. The pieces are moving in a way that makes one thing abundantly clear. The Browns are clearing the runway for a rebuild around a quarterback they can mold from the ground up. And Shedeur? He fits that mold. Young, talented, coachable, marketable, and most importantly, on track for a 2026 debut, which just so happens to align perfectly with Cleveland's new organizational clock. Think about it. You don't fire your head coach, push out your strategy officer, and promote your GM to team president unless you're ready to scrap the old system and rebuild from scratch. You don't do all that just to stick with a broken offense, a half-functioning quarterback room, and the ghost of analytics past. You do it because you've seen enough. You've reached the limit. You're ready to bet everything on a new core. And in Barry's case, that bet looks like it's being placed on a post-analytics era. A back-to-football approach. One where the eye test matters as much as the algorithm. One where quarterback development isn't left to chance, it's the blueprint. If that sounds like it's tailor-made for someone like Shedeur Sanders, it's because it is. Let's be clear, this isn't a team looking for a quick fix. If they were, Stefanski would still be here. The Browns would be chasing another veteran QB and praying for 9 wins and a wild card slot. But that's not what this is. This is a hard reset, a cleansing of the entire football operation to prepare for a long-term investment. And when you make that kind of move, you don't do it for just any quarterback. You do it for someone you believe can anchor your franchise for the next decade. That's what the NFL has become. If you don't have the guy at quarterback, you're just renting time. Every playoff caliber team has someone under center who either grew into the job or walked in ready to dominate. Cleveland they've had placeholders, projects, veterans on borrowed time. None of them stuck. But now, with Barry at the top and a clean organizational structure underneath him, the Browns finally have the chance to prepare for a young quarterback the right way. They don't have to panic. They don't have to force it. They can spend 2024 and 2025 crafting the system, the playbook, and the personnel around a 2026 launch. That's unheard of in Cleveland. It's also exactly what Shedeur Sanders would need. A team willing to wait. A front office committed to development. A city that doesn't demand miracles on day one, but is hungry for someone to believe in again. And let's not ignore the fact that Barry now gets to pick his own coaching staff without restrictions. That hasn't always been the case in Cleveland. Previous hires were often collaborative decisions, compromised. This time, the coach who walks in that door will be chosen because he fits Barry's plan. And that means offense, quarterback-centric systems, modern play design, coaches who understand how to build around a young, mobile, pass-first quarterback who's still learning to read NFL defenses. That's the blueprint now. And if Sanders is part of that plan, then the Browns are finally doing something they've never done before. Laying the groundwork before handing over the keys to a new QB. No more throwing rookies into the fire. No more wasting prime development years under 4 different coordinators. If Barry's rebuild is successful, Sanders won't be dropped into a mess. He'll be stepping into a structure that's been built for him. That's how you win in this league. But that's also why the stakes are sky high. If this doesn't work, if Barry misses on the coach, if the roster doesn't gel, if the quarterback plan falls apart, the Browns are back to square one. Again, with another rebuild, another round of finger-pointing, and another list of regrets. But if it does work, then this could be the start of Cleveland's first real, sustained era of success in decades. It won't happen overnight. The next 2 seasons will be about hard decisions, cutting dead weight, drafting with precision, building a culture that doesn't fall apart the moment adversity hits. That's not flashy, but it's necessary. The Browns can't afford to rush this. Not again. Not with so much at stake. They've tried the shortcuts. They've tried the chaos. Now they need patience. And if Andrew Barry is given the time and space to execute his plan, his full plan, the result might just be a franchise that finally learns how to stop rebuilding and start evolving. For Sanders, that would be everything. A system that doesn't break him. A front office that backs him. A coaching staff that understands his game and grows it. And a fan base ready to turn the page on the dysfunction. Because for all the noise and all the skepticism, there's one thing that can't be denied. This is a turning point. The Browns are different now. They're not just reacting to failure. They're owning it and finally doing something about it. And if you're still trying to catch your breath, yeah, same. Because the Cleveland Browns didn't just quietly rearrange the front office. They detonated it. Kevin Stefanski's firing wasn't just a coaching decision. It was the symbolic end of an era. The Haslams didn't just make a move. They sent a message. And that message was loud. We're done waiting for this to click. It's not like Stefanski was universally hated. He had moments. That 2020 playoff win over the Steelers? Huge. He brought structure when the franchise was drowning in instability. But over time, that structure calcified. The offense plateaued. Quarterback play dipped into chaos again. The creativity dried up. And the relationship between coach and roster? It looked more mechanical than inspired. So, the Browns pulled the plug. No slow fade, no soft landing. Gone. But that wasn't even the most shocking part. What came after? The immediate promotion of Andrew Barry to team president is what truly turned him. Let's talk about what that means. General managers have power. But presidents? Presidents run organizations. Barry now has control over not just player personnel, but coaching hires, football ops, strategic direction, everything. He's not in the mix anymore. He is the mix. And that kind of consolidation doesn't happen by accident. Ownership didn't just like Barry. They backed him so completely that they restructured the hierarchy to make him the singular voice shaping the future. So whether you're all in on Barry or deeply skeptical, one thing is clear. There's no more internal conflict. No more tug-of-war between DePodesta's analytics-first model and football instincts. Because DePodesta's gone, too. And his exit might be the most quietly important piece of this entire shakeup. DePodesta wasn't just a background figure. He was influential in the Watson trade, in the organization's emphasis on data over traditional scouting, and in the kind of decisions that prioritize models over momentum. His departure to the Colorado Rockies, a full leap back to baseball, signals a philosophical reboot. Analytics won't disappear, but they're no longer running the show. That clears the deck for Barry. And what does Barry reportedly want? A system that prioritizes quarterback development. A roster built around young talent. A coaching staff that can nurture rather than just manage. All of which circles back, again, to Shedeur Sanders. This isn't a drill. The way this timeline is lining up is impossible to ignore. Shedeur projects to be NFL ready in 2026. That's 2 full seasons for Barry to reconstruct the offense, reshape the roster, and install a coaching staff built to develop a new face of the franchise. And it's about time Cleveland operated this way. Because let's not forget, this team hasn't had a real, sustainable quarterback plan in decades. They've patched holes. They've chased hype. They've taken wild swings. But they've never built a slow, structured, development-focused system around a young quarterback with elite potential. They haven't done what Buffalo did with Josh Allen, or what Philadelphia did with Jalen Hurts, or what Houston is now doing with C.J. Stroud. Until now. With Barry in full control, they can. They can hire a coaching staff that speaks the same language. Offensive minds who actually evolve their playbook around the player instead of cramming them into a one-size-fits-all scheme. Coordinators who understand tempo, spacing, and modern NFL systems. Coaches who don't just survive mistakes, they coach through them. That's the environment Shedeur Sanders would need. Because the truth is, no young quarterback thrives on talent alone. They need support, stability, trust. And the Browns, historically, have offered none of that. But this reset, this rare, top-down clarity, it might actually allow, for the first time in recent memory, where a quarterback walks into Cleveland and doesn't immediately start drowning. And yes, it's all hypothetical for now. There's no guarantee that Sanders even ends up there. But the structure is being designed to welcome someone like him. And if he's the guy Barry wants, the Browns are finally putting the right pieces in place before trying to hand someone the keys. It's the NFL version of prepping the runway before the plane lands. And for a franchise like Cleveland, who's made an art out of crashing on takeoff, that shift is monumental. This is no longer about finding a stopgap. This is about investing early in a process that leads to long-term success. And yes, that means taking heat in the short term. If 2024 is rough, so be it. If 2025 is transitional, fine. Because 2026? That's the year where this plan either pays off or implodes. And everyone knows it. Barry knows he's on the clock now. Stefanski's out. DePodesta's out. He's the last one standing. And that means every draft pick, every coaching hire, every quarterback whisperer he brings in, it's all on him. There's no more cover. No more passing the buck. If Shedeur Sanders becomes the future of the Browns, Barry either goes down as the guy who finally solved the quarterback riddle or just another executive who took one swing too many. But right now he has the trust. From ownership. From the front office. And maybe, if things go right, from the locker room. And in Cleveland? That's more than a fresh start. That's a chance to rewrite the story entirely. So tell us, does this new structure give you hope? Are the Browns finally heading towards something real? Or is this just another reboot waiting to unravel? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're cautiously optimistic or just tired, and subscribe to follow every twist in the NFL's boldest rebuild. Because whatever happens next in Cleveland, it won't be boring.